And we're off and running here in Swepsonville, North Carolina for the third annual 252 Flag Football Draft. Looks to be a great day. What do you say?
I'm happy to be here with all these fans, and I'm excited for this season. I love when guys ask me, when is the draft?
You know, I was thinking the same to myself, and here we go.
Welcome, everyone, to the third 252 Draft. We look forward to another great season with improvements focused on player safety. Representing Saxe-Bahal and their team captain, Josh Chick, is Deputy Commissioner Isaac Irby. Representing Swepsonville and team captain Austin McClendon is Commissioner Matt Handy. Saxe-Bahal will be selecting first. Saxe-Bahal is now on the clock.
Well, Saxe-Bahal is now on the clock. They have the first pick in this draft. We heard about player safety. Matt Handy, you need to tell me what you think about player safety.
I'm really big on player safety, and I think that's going to reflect the first round of this draft. Commissioner said he was going to have suspensions this year if any risk of player safety. So I think we're going to see some skilled guys drop. I think we might see a guy like Ross Myers, a sportsmanship winner from last year, might go high, or Will Kirkpatrick, a lineman of the year, very talented. What about you?
I look at guys like Blake Epps, a guy that can impact the game at every level. You know, I would say Jeremy Leggett being the number 1 overall pick, but, you know, he's not in this country anymore, which is unfortunate because he was a great player. You know, there's a lot of talented guys in this league, a lot of new additions this year that have never been drafted before.
There are some really good new additions this year. There's some guys coming back that were drafted last year as well that did not play but may go high. The Brown brothers maybe. You might even see the McCauley brothers go high. There's some great brothers in this league.
I think one set of brothers that can be overrated is the Kirkpatrick brothers. Twins, you might say.
And don't forget the Casimir brothers. One of the best quarterbacks ever, and his brother was one of the top receivers, even though we only saw him once.
The weather here is rough. What do you think about this weather? Do you think that's going to impact the drafting of these gentlemen?
It is a lot of thunder and lightning here. I'm just hoping it's not affecting our game tomorrow. But I know Commissioner Handy, although he's high on player safety, it's player-to-player safety. He will not let the weather stop a game no matter what. I remember the first game ever in 252 history. Poured down rain before the game. He got there early and shoveled mulch out on the field to cover holes that were soaking wet that might have mud to prevent players from slipping. He is committed to player safety.
Wasn't the first ever 2-5? And here's the first pick in the draft.
With the first pick of the 252 Flag Football Draft, Saxe-Bahal selects a wide receiver, tight end, and defensive back out of NC State University and Eastern Alamance football, Keaston Young.
Wow, Keaston Young with the first pick. He was a talented player last year. He came in. He was a great player. He contributed a lot to his team. He was a champion on and off the field. What can't be said about Keaston Young?
I'm in disbelief right now. How did Keaston Young go number 1? Only a player of half a season. I got right here, he was 1 for 8 on passing attempts. I'm scratching my head right now. With all the great players that were on the board, we have Keaston Young. Don't get me wrong, Keaston Young is probably one of the most talented players in the league, even an MVP candidate this season, but just due to his lack of experience, only half a season, and with some of these top guys on the board, I thought we'd see him slide a little bit longer. We got a lot of good picks still on the board. I'm in disbelief right now.
I'll tell you. Let me just give you a few points about Keaston Young that you might be overlooking. First of all, his sportsmanship. One of the highest character guys in the league. That cannot be questioned. Another thing that can't be questioned is Keaston's commitment to the league. This is a guy that only played half a season, but I'd say he's looking forward to this season as much as anybody else.
He was in contact with the commissioner first. He did have a long streak of games running where he did not miss any games. You cannot question his commitment or character to this league.
Another thing about Keaston is he's a flexible guy in terms of position. This is a guy that can play lineman when needed.
He can. Lineman is very valued in this league. We've seen a lot of linemen go early. We might see one now.
With the second pick of the first round, Swepsonville selects offensive lineman, linebacker, and cornerback from the U.S. military, Alex Shalansky.
Alex Shalansky, indeed a flex lineman, gets drafted here. Alex Shalansky, You look at his list of achievements, and it's ridiculous. Defensive Player of the Year. What is that? 2-time Linebacker of the Year? What else hasn't he done?
That would be 2-time All-League linebacker and 2-time All-League O-lineman. This guy leads the league in flag pulls every year. The number 1 pick in the draft last year. Alex Shalansky's just about the all-around player, the best all-around player you can get.
The guy can impact offense and defense. He can guard anybody in the league. The flag pulls is an underrated stat. It's a lot like tackles for a middle linebacker, where when you're just stopping people short of the first down marker, that's a big deal. Making them take one more play to get the first down, that's the difference between a win and a loss.
He is. A lot of people say Alex Shalansky is one of the best stoppers in the league. Some even say he's a Blake Epps stopper. What's your opinion on that?
There was only one Blake Epps stopper in the league. He retired after the first season. You may remember him as an all-pro running back. Isaac Irby, many of you know him as a top player, recently retired to become executive stat keeper. He's also the deputy commissioner as well as many other jobs in 252, a very high-ranking official after his playing career. Did I mention he was an all-pro running back?
Isaac Irby was an outstanding player. When I think about Blake Epps, I kind of think of him like LeBron. You talk about LeBron stoppers. Alex Shalansky is one of the best. He's probably like Draymond or Marcus Morris, but there's only one guy to completely shut down LeBron James, and that's Stanley Johnson, and that's who Isaac Irby reminds me a lot of.
There's a lot of similarities between their games, both tough physical guys who could overcome the odds to become a top player. Looks like the 3rd pick is coming up.
With the 3rd pick of the first round of the 252 flag football draft, Saxe-Baja selects a quarterback out of East Carolina and Eastern Alamance High School, Brandon Wade.
We see the first quarterback go, I do believe, Brandon Wade. He's a guy with arm talent. He played baseball in high school. He can throw it the whole length of a field. He has great accuracy. What else can he contribute to the team?
Clutch performance. Some may remember his performance in his first ever game, led Swepsonville to a huge victory after they were on a losing streak, came in, game-winning touchdown pass. After Mike Casimir, who's obviously the best quarterback in the league, I would argue Brandon Wade is probably the 2nd best quarterback.
How did he slip to the 3rd pick?
That's a wonderful question. I think these commissioners may have overlooked how important the quarterback position is. I think they were just looking at best available instead of quarterback, because, lineman is valued so much in this league. It's almost like linemen are quarterbacks in this league.
That's very true. One thing about Brandon Wade is he didn't come to that many games last year. What do you have to say about that?
He was in Greenville, North Carolina, and still managed to make it out to a few games, which shows his commitment to the league. Brandon Wade's an MVP candidate for me this year. I think he's one of the most underutilized quarterbacks in this league. I think we're going to see big things from him.
Are you going on record now as saying that Brandon Wade will be the MVP this year?
I'm not.
Not a lot of confidence in the things he's saying, I see. As the next pick comes in, let's talk about player safety a little bit more and tell me really what you have envisioned for your player safety program.
So first off, we're trying to eliminate player safety threats from the league. That could be personality traits. That could be just heated exchanges. We're going to have guys have a lot more break time this year and shorter games. We're going to have quarters instead of halves. And we're going to really share the gospel at halftime. I hope that really translates onto the field. We have some great sportsmanship guys like Ross Myers and Derek Jones. We hope reflects their sportsmanship. What are some of your ideas for player safety?
I think it's just really good to reinforce that this league is all about being friendly and coming out and playing with friends that you haven't seen in a while. This league brings people together like no other league I've ever been a part of. And I just think that's a great thing, and we can't lose sight of the reason why we're here, and it's to have a good time on Saturday from 11 to 1.
And I'm really glad Commissioner Handy's putting some time into player safety. I think we're going to see suspensions right away, maybe one warning and then a suspension. We're not going to be seeing guys cursing. We're not going to be seeing guys fighting. It's just not going to be put up within this league, because any game could be the league's last.
That's true. I've been hearing that the league is in a bit of financial trouble. What do you have to say?
Well, considering it's a non-profit league and there's no fees and we've never been given one donation, I would say we are in desperate financial trauma. We need help and we need money to continue this league.
We need help. Oh, my God. Oh, you heard it here first, folks. 252 might be filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. You know, this has been a great draft so far. We've seen, 3 picks. I don't know what's taking so long for this pick. I mean, it's pretty obvious who needs to go next, isn't it?
Yeah, we've always known Matt Handy to be a head scratcher when it comes to making picks. He's always indecisive, taking a long time on his picks. We're really not sure where he's going to go with this pick, but let's get back to what we were talking about. Player safety could lead to some suspensions and just games being shut down and maybe never coming back. This could be the last year of 252 football. What do you think about that?
I think if this was the last year, I would be sad. I think, I hope when people hear this that it's possibly the last year of 252 football, I'm hoping that they'll come together and that they'll really show that this league means something, that it needs to exist next year. Maybe with monetary contribution. I don't know. Here's the pick.
There's a trade to announce. Swepsonville has traded the 4th pick in the first round for Saxe-Bahall's 2nd round pick, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, and 2 10th round picks.
That was a lot of picks. What just happened?
I don't know what's more of a shock, the Keaston Young pick or this trade. We just saw a first-round pick go in exchange for about 5 picks. I'm not sure whose roster this is going to help. Isaac Gerber is going to have 3 first-rounders on his roster, while Matt Handy's team is going to have some serious depth. And based on history, which one of these do you think will be more effective?
The fact of the matter is, depth comes second, and top talent comes first. Now, we've seen some teams that had very little total talent, but 1 or 2 talented players, and those teams were champion teams. What do you say to that?
Talent is only as good as character. Some talented guys with bad character will be suspended this season.
I agree with that. There are some talented people in this league that, they don't show their value for this league when they come out. They show that they don't care about this league and that they want to see this league fail, especially monetarily.
We're going to have a great season this year. And because of these great players drafted, we've seen 3 great players get drafted. I'm really curious to see where Isaac Gerber is going to go with this next pick. He's got Keaston Young and Brandon Wade, 2 really talented players. Do you think he's going to go with another skilled guy for Brandon Wade to throw to, or is he going to go defense here?
You know what he's got to do? It's very clear, and there's only one name that comes to mind, and that's Blake Epps. He's a game changer. He's 6'10", 300 pounds. He runs a 4.4 40. That's right, a 4.4 40. He's got all the talent in the world. He's a fireman, so if the team's in trouble, he's the guy that can come and rescue them. I don't know, but that's where I would go with the pick. What do you think?
And the word on the street is Blake Epps has been doing CrossFit, so he's looking to be very healthy. It's going to be the issue. Will he show up to games? I think this is going to be the year we see a healthy Blake Epps, and that's going to be an unstoppable force this year. If he doesn't go in the first round, I would be surprised.
He's got Brandon Wade throw it to him. That's how you build a team. They got Keaston Young, a guy that can play lineman, tight end, anywhere you want him. Great defensive player. Brandon Wade, great quarterback. Now all they need is somebody to solidify the receiver core. They need a solid lineman. The team is being built. Now Matt Handy, for his team, he's got a ton of picks. He can do whatever he wants with it. In fact, he's got every pick in the second round, it looks like. And so he's got so many options that it doesn't matter who Isaac picks here. Matt is going to have a loaded team.
Isaac better make this pick count. He's not picking for 4 picks, but he does have 3 first-round talents. We'll see where he can go with this pick. But what do you think the draft boards of these guys are looking like right now? Are they shooken up from this trade?
I think they're definitely shaken up. I mean, Matt Handy has so many picks now that, guys that he thought would never slide to him are going to. And we're going to see who he can get after this pick.
With the last pick of the first round, Saxe-Bahall selects lineman, linebacker, tight end, and kicker out of East Carolina and Eastern Alamance High School, Austin Smith.
We just saw Austin Smith get drafted, one of the highest character guys in the league, one of the highest talented guys in the league. When I think of Austin Smith, I think of a guy that was tight end of the year, and we all know why. His multiple touchdown game, he used a swim move on Josh Chick for an easy score. And we also know the game-winning touchdown who threw that to him?
Brandon Wade, the pick right before. We should have predicted that Brandon Wade and Austin Smith would have been picked. Probably the best duo in the league. The team chemistry for this team is going to be off the charts with Brandon Wade, Austin Smith, and Keaston Young. They didn't get their friend Alex Shalansky, but look for maybe Louis Porco to go next, get all the friends together. But wow, one of the best games in 252 history, the Brandon Wade, Austin Smith comeback. And now we have them on the same team. I can only expect great things from them this season.
You know, they've got two guys that are flex linemen and tight end. You know, they might line up on the line. You don't know if they're blocking. You don't know if they're receiving. You know, Brandon Wade has a good mind for the game. He's a good play caller. He can dial up some things that will get people involved that you might not expect.
Another thing to note, we just saw the entire first-round pass and 4 Eastern Alamance players drafted. Do you think this is a reflection of John Kirby?
Look, I'm the first person to question John Kirby's coaching ability, but let me tell you, you can't argue with John Kirby's success. This is a guy that has made it to the state finals multiple times. Final Four, basically guaranteed. Look at our league, the Eastern Alamance football production as far as player talent. It's just on a different level that I don't know if anywhere else can compete with. One thing to notice, we have a lot of Williams players this year. We have a lot of Eastern Guilford players this year. It used to just be Eastern and Southern. The league is diversifying as far as high schooler. Are we going to see that John Kirby may not be as good as we thought?
We're definitely going to find out because, as you said, it's been Southern. Southern has not been getting the job done. Now we're expanding to Williams and Eastern Guilford. 2 schools I think they can compete with Eastern. I know those guys are going to carry their school with pride. And we're going to see them compete with Eastern. We might see a pipeline of more Williams players coming in through these guys. And we might see more Eastern Guilford guys coming in. Also, the U.S. military has been really representing, so we might see some of those guys.
You know, that's really true. These guys have experience in all sorts of different ways. People are talented. You know, they build their football skills from all different walks of life. I think that's a very strong thing. Who are we looking to see picked next? I mean, Matt Handy has 4 picks in a row. What is he going to do with that? You know, where is he going to go?
We could see him build his entire offensive line, go all linemen here. I think that would be a little risky. He's probably going to have a mix here of linemen and skill guys, but I'm not sure. What do you think about 4 straight picks? Where would you go with this?
Well, one thing to note about Matt Handy's team is that one thing that needs to be mentioned is that I believe his and here's the pick.
With the first pick of the second round, Swepsonville selects offensive lineman and defensive lineman from the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, Will Kirkpatrick.
Well, this is a guy that, you know, he was not projected to be a good lineman last year. Let's just face facts. He ended up being lineman of the year. You know, he was called out for his lack of really any moves, but specifically the swim move. Some would say he's developed it. I'm still a little questionable about that. What do you say?
There's nothing to question about this man's talent. Offensively, one of the best linemen. Defensively, gets sacks. And a big part of it is his swim move. I think that was a poorly scouted comment by the announcer from last year. He has some questionable predictions on players. As remember, his preseason MVP pick last year was Jalen Brown, quarterback of Graham Middle School, who competed in 0 games.
You know, some guys haven't made it out to the games yet, but they're highly talented players. One guy that has made it out is, of course, Will Kirkpatrick. I mean, he's a guy that gets sacks. And Matt Handy is clearly building his offensive line here. One thing to note is that, as I was saying earlier, his team captain is Austin McClendon. That's not a guy that you want playing quarterback. That's a guy that, you know, I wouldn't even say is capable of playing quarterback, but he has done it before. So Matt Handy, you know, he's got to be looking to get a quarterback here, don't you think?
I think that is important to note that these teams do have Josh Chick and Austin McClendon already on them. So now you have Austin McClendon, best long snapper in the league, Alex Shalansky, and Will Kirkpatrick, 3 linemen. You would expect a quarterback to go soon. He's built the pocket around them. But we will see where he goes with this next pick.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What should come first, the quarterback or the receivers to catch it?
Wonderful question. I would say the quarterback comes first in most leagues, But we've seen many guys play quarterback in this league. Nick Baird's 4 for 20 performance, captained by Derek Jones. We've seen guys from Kason McCauley, middle schooler, to Matt McDaniel play quarterback. We've seen Ralph Holochef play quarterback. Maybe that's who will go with this pick.
With the second pick in the second round, Swepsonville selects wide receiver and defensive back from Yanceyville, Ross Myers.
Ross Myers is a guy. There's one thing about him that can't be questioned, and that's his sportsmanship. But there's one thing that can. That's his age.
We're not sure if this guy's even eligible to play in this league due to age. But I see a trend here from Matt Handy's picks. He's gone with a Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time O-line and linebacker. Then he goes to Lineman of the Year, now Sportsmanship of the Year. Is Matt Handy obsessed with having guys with awards?
Well, Matt Handy gives out the awards. So clearly, he's kind of biased towards players that do win awards. But I think, awards are not everything, but they do mean something in this league, especially the Sportsmanship Award. Tell me a little bit more about what makes Ross Myers one of the top sportsman guys in the league.
He'll tell you himself, but he comes out there to play and have a good time. You'll never see this guy's character in question. If there's something's going wrong, he'll try to settle it down. This man is a selfless guy. He will do whatever it takes for the league. He will help anyone. And it's just great to have Ross Myers. I wish there was more Ross Myers in our league.
Doesn't he live like 2 hours away?
Hey, sometimes it's hard to find guys with good character. We're not finding it in the Mebane pipeline.
Some choice words there from the commissioner. This league is something else. People really love it. It really brings people together. Do you like how much people are brought together by this league?
That's the number one goal of this league. We run this league in order for guys to come together and have a good experience during the summer. And I'd love to see this league get back to that. The first year in this league didn't even have officials because teams officiated the leagues by themselves because they could be trusted. Last year, we really saw a lot of official complaints, like it was our job to do that, when really we're just out here trying to have a good time, make the calls that aren't seen. I hope we really get back to having a fun league that's about community.
That's great. And I've heard one of the rumors is that filming may or may not take place this year.
I've also heard that rumor direct from Commissioner Handy himself, and I eavesdropped in on a conversation between Deputy Commissioner and the head commissioner about this, and they're considering no film because officiating. Guys make it too hard to officiate this game, but picks are easy with Matt Handy.
With the third pick of the second round, Swepsonville selects offensive lineman from Eastern Guilford, Latrell Brown.
Well, we know what happened last year. I said Latrell Brown would be the lineman of the year. Might as well double down because I think he's going to come to a game this time.
Latrell Brown is a beast. There's no other way to put it. Probably the best offensive lineman in this league. We're going to see him at games this year. He will be a beast. Let me tell you, foreshadowing, if him and his brother end up on the same team, that will be unstoppable.
Quite unstoppable indeed. I hope that doesn't happen. Latrell Brown, he's a guy, I don't think you mentioned where he went to high school. I'll let you know. Eastern, not Alamance, but Guilford. Which is better?
He would say, hands down, Eastern Guilford is better. They refer to it just as Eastern, just as the Eastern Alamance crowd does. Hey, but let me tell you, Latrell Brown's another high-character guy. I'd love to see him in this league. A fun-spirited guy, but a great competitor. He's going to really give some linemen some challenges this season.
Do you think his character more than his talent got him drafted this high?
I think it's a combination of both, and the reason he slid this far is availability. We're not sure how many games he's going to be at, but we can see in this draft that's the three things guys look at: talent, availability, and character.
We can see clearly that some of Matt Handy's picks have been, I guess, exclusively on character.
He may have a thing to do with suspensions, so he may know that some guys are going to get suspended and he's not willing to risk drafting them. But another reason that we're seeing so many guys with character go to Matt Handy is because he's had so many picks.
That's true. And here's another one.
With the fourth pick in the second round, Swepsonville selects offensive and defensive lineman from Wingate University and Eastern Alamance, Jalen Faust.
Well, it doesn't even need to be said, but I'll say it. He came to one game last year, and in that one game he earned all-league talent. I believe he set the record for quarterback pressures in a game. We're not going to stat check that. Matt Handy, Jalen Faust is a great player. He's a guy that if he comes, he will be the best lineman in the league. Linemen came up to me after the game and they said, why didn't you get Jalen Faust on your team? They said, Jalen Faust, we're trying to, he's blocking us and we're going home with bruises.
A former team captain in this league said that Jalen Faust would just put his hands on his chest and squeeze his chest together. He was that strong and that dominant. To see him go in the second round, it's honestly worth it, even if he only comes and plays one game, because you're probably winning that game.
Linemen can impact the game in a way that I don't think a lot of people recognize. And Jalen Faust, a premier lineman, if he comes to one game, that's a guaranteed win in the bag. We're talking about 5 or 6 games this year, depending on schedule. And, if you're guaranteed one win out of those games, I mean, that you can't argue with the pick in the back end of the second round.
A little known fact about Jalen Faust, he played basketball in 9th grade with Commissioner Matt Handy and Nick McGrainer on a team called the Mebane Ballers. So we may see some bias here in Matt Handy's pick.
I don't even think Jalen Faust knows that. What do you say?
He may not remember that, but it is a true fact. You can ask Nick McGrainer.
Nick McGrainer, known as a trustworthy guy. When do you think we'll see him drafted?
We may be a while.
Nick McGrainer, a guy with low availability, low talent, medium character.
I'd rather have Cole on my team.
Cole McGrainer, a guy that played.
He played in some preseason games, never made it to the regular season, but that was just due to his lack of interest in the league due to domination.
Some guys, it's just like eat or be eaten. And some guys that came out to this league, they just got eaten. I think of
how Cole, we grew up together playing sports. And sorry that I paused in a sentimental moment. I'd really just love to see Cole McGrainer back in this league, along with some of the other guys I grew up playing sports with, like the Orman brothers, another set of brothers that are great in this league. I'd really love to see a Trent Freeman appearance, and just guys I grew up playing with, like the McCauley brothers and the McClendon brothers.
Austin McClendon, a guy that's guaranteed for the league. Somebody picked him as their MVP. It wasn't me. What do you say to that?
He's not my preseason MVP this season either.
Austin McClendon, one of the most controversial awards ever was the Austin McClendon MVP pick. Really, very few people voted for him for MVP, but, he won MVP. And a lot of people are still wondering, do you have the inside scoop on how Austin McClendon even managed to win MVP?
Look, Austin McClendon is a collegiate football player. I think that backs up his talent. It's nice to see Isaac Irby back on the pick.
With the first pick of the third round, Sax Baja selects a wide receiver, defensive back. Out of Southern Alamance High School, Trevor Woods.
Trevor Woods just got picked there. I mean, this is a guy that has all the talent in the world. May not be recognized by all members of the league. He's one of the most underutilized people last year. The most underutilized, I would say. A guy that you have to get the ball in his hands because he will produce. And people just need to learn that in this league.
He plays basketball for Southern Alamance. I spoke to his coach. He said Trevor's one of the best athletes he coached, and he's a quick learner. I think he's one of the most underutilized guys in this league. He's an MVP candidate if utilized correctly.
I say that and agree with that, too. He's a guy that was underutilized last year. When he touched the ball, he produced. I don't understand why he didn't get the ball more. Every time he was throwing a pass, good things happened. This was a guy that scored. This was a guy that, defenses needed to pay attention to. Like, if Sax Baja used him correctly last year, they might be champions right now, but they weren't.
Who was responsible for his utilization for Sax Baja?
Well, you look at the guy that's returning as captain, Josh Chick. He's a guy that, he's not a good play caller. He's not a good quarterback. He's not a good talent utilizer. He doesn't get his players involved. He's a guy that runs the same play the whole game. I mean, just tell me more about why Josh Chick is an ineffective captain.
I think you summed it up. But let's not overlook the great things that Josh Chick does. His pride in this league. He has the best hip swivel in flag football history, not just 252 history. This man, he can really rally a team together, bring them together. He just brings such spirit and commitment to the league. Josh Chick is one of my favorite players. I wish I could draft him.
Unfortunately, Josh Chick, it will be as he always is, the captain of Sax Bahal. We just have to face facts. Swepsonville's up 2-0 in 252 lifetime history. Josh Chick has not gotten it done. He's a guy that starts off hot and ends ice cold. How can he turn that around this year? How can Josh Chick be a guy that starts strong and finishes strong?
I know Josh Chick has been spending time in Block's weight room, really committing himself in the offseason to getting better to help his team. He has the experience now of being a captain for 2 years. I think Josh Chick has one of his best chances ever to bring a championship home to Sax Bahal this season.
I think something that has to be noted is that, Sax Bahal has Brandon Wade now, and Josh Chick doesn't have to play quarterback. Do you think Josh Chick will be willing to put his big ego aside and say, look, Brandon Wade is the better quarterback. I can be a great weapon for Brandon Wade. I have to let Brandon Wade play quarterback.
If Josh Chick does that, my preseason pick as the draft stands right now would be Sax Bahal winning a championship, but this pick could change it.
With the second pick in the third round, Swepsonville selects tight end of Alamance Christian School, Spencer Ellingson.
Well, I don't think that pick is going to change it, but he was tight end of the year last year. Is Swepsonville going to be able to utilize Spencer Ellingson to his full potential?
Right now, look at his roster. Along with Spencer Ellingson, who was the tight end of the year, I see 5 linemen and Ross. So there's no quarterback on this roster, which raises concerns. We have a lot of guys blocking for, I guess, Ross, but Austin McClendon is the captain of this team. He's been known to say that 5 linemen blocking for one guy, 6 on 11, is an advantage that he will use.
Austin McClendon, that's one thing you have to give him credit for. Austin McClendon will find an advantage and use that advantage. Even if people think it's a disadvantage, Austin McClendon doesn't read the dis. He only reads the advantage.
Yeah, I was watching film before this draft, and there's no advantage of having him at quarterback. Hopefully he's willing to put his ego aside also. Captain does not mean quarterback in this league, but captain does mean leadership. I hope that captains are willing to let other guys be quarterbacks while still leading their team in character, play calling, and to a championship.
Austin McClendon, I looked at the film too. Ugly throws, that's all you can say. He's a guy that produced in other ways. A great snapper, a great lineman, a great defender on the defensive line, and, a good receiver and running back. He's just a guy that you don't necessarily want at quarterback, but he can impact the game in the other ways, clearly by his MVP award, where he only played a few games at quarterback. Do you think Austin McClendon, this team is built for success with Austin McClendon?
At quarterback, no. At running back, maybe. At lineman, yes. He just has to put his college career in the front, which he plays lineman, and commit to that for his team. He's worthy of being captain, but he could also lose that honor quickly if Austin McClendon tries to be a hero. I don't think he will, and I think that puts his team at a great chance of bringing Swepsonville their 3rd consecutive title.
Austin McClendon is a guy that he's been training, with an NCAA football team to become a top lineman. He's been practicing long snapper. And, he's been working out. Austin McClendon, he's been in the gym, an NCAA football gym. The guy knows what he's doing. The guy has been coached at a high level. He's got to get big to be a solid lineman. And so as he gets bigger, he might have less mobility, but he has way more strength and way more ability at the line position.
We could say good things about Austin all day. Back to the pick for a moment. Spencer Ellingson, shout out, salutatorian at his high school. Let's see who the next pick is.
With the 3rd pick of the 3rd round, Sax Bahal selects a linebacker and offensive lineman. Representing Black Armor Productions, Hunter Farlow.
It's time that we remind you that this draft is sponsored by Black Armor Productions. Hunter Farlow, making things happen. So Hunter Farlow was the pick. When I think of Hunter Farlow, there's only one thing that needs to be said, and that's he's a high-character guy and a high-impact guy. Diving flag pulls, never complains a day. He loves to be there. He makes great plays, and he loves to be on the field. And, he doesn't get heated in the moment. He's just a great player to have. What do you think?
Seeing a lot of high-character guys go high in the draft. Hunter Farlow, another example. What comes to mind is he played with a broken foot and a boot and had outstanding flag pulls, diving flag pulls, as you said. We're going to really see his effectiveness on the offensive line and flag pulling this year. Hunter Farlow, a great pickup for Isaac Irby's team.
You know, this is a top guy. I mean, it just can't be said enough. Character in this league is what matters. These guys are top character players. So what do you think about this league?
This is a great league. I'm really looking forward to this season. What are some of your favorite moments from this league?
You know, I look at the it was mentioned before, but it's great to bring it up again. The Austin Smith game, the Brandon Wade game. A little known fact about that game, you talked about the game-winning touchdown. And, Brandon Wade threw it to Austin Smith, but that was not how it was dialed up. Top play caller Mike Pike, he dialed up a halfback pass. They called on me to all-pro running back. They asked me to throw the pass. I said, you know, I can do this, but I think Brandon Wade is the guy to throw the pass. It ended up being a touchdown. You know, did I call that play? Yes. Do I deserve credit? Yes. But, you know, it was a great play, and, you know, that was my favorite play, my favorite moment, my favorite game. But what are some other things that were top moments?
Well, there's a lot to take away from that moment first. Although you did not put your ego aside right now, in the moment you did put your ego aside, and that's what we look for from captains. That has to be probably the greatest game in flag football history. Some other top moments are just Blake Epps' outstanding catches. Him, Jeremy Leggett make some of the most outstanding catches we've ever seen.
That's true. Those are some of the best plays that I can ever remember. One of my favorite plays that comes to mind is the Alex Crawford versus Blake Epps goal line play. Tell me how that went down.
So Alex Crawford shows up. He was a legend. We never saw him, thought he was like Bigfoot. It's a goal line stand, 4th and goal. Blake Epps carries up the middle. Alex Crawford meets him at the goal line, forces a fumble to stop the game. Alex Crawford's team comes back, marches overtime, but unfortunately loses. Blake got the last laugh in many games, catching many game winners, but that was a very highlighted moment from Alex Crawford. Let's highlight this pick.
With the 4th pick of the 3rd round, Swepsonville selects quarterback and defensive back of Southern Alamance High School, Emmett Raggett.
Well, it's about time. We saw a quarterback picked, Emmett Raggett. He's a guy that, you know, you could get this low because he's a developing quarterback. He's a guy that is excellent. He's an up-and-comer. You know, he's still in high school. He's still growing, and he's still maturing in the game. And we see his development at quarterback. It's been great. He's had game-winning drives. He's had game-losing drives. Tell me what we expect to see out of Emmett Raggett.
This season, like you said, we're going to see Emmett continue to develop as a quarterback. It's a great pick for this team. They got the line built around him. If this league doesn't end before his prime, then we will see some highlight plays from Emmett Raggett. He's also a high-character guy. We've yet to see a non-high-character guy go in these first 3 rounds.
That's right. I don't look at any of these people and they don't scream like problem child. People that like, we really don't even want to have at this league.
Who are some guys that do scream problem child to you?
Well, let me look at some people on the draft board. Yeah, there's a lot of people in this league that are guys with big egos and heated moments and, you know, things that need to be calmed down this year.
Yeah, some of those guys will not be in the league this year. We love them. And if they somehow go out of their way to prove that they will be successful in this league, we will welcome anyone back. But we do go off of track records, and suspensions will happen. But back to this league. What are some of the best players? Who are some of the best players you know in this league in history?
In all of history. Well, when we think of quarterback, I think one of the people that we have to mention is Mike Casimir, a guy that delivered, you know, a championship to Swepsonville the first season. When I think at running back, there's people like All-Pro, retired running back Isaac Irby, as well as Austin McLennan had a year that he was decent. And here's the pick.
With the 1st pick of the 4th round, Swepsonville selects quarterback of Eastern Guilford High School, Jalen Brown.
You know, some commentators had Jalen Brown picked as an MVP last year, and I'm going to piggyback off those commentators and say he's going to be an MVP pick this year. He is my pick for MVP, Jalen Brown. He's a guy that didn't come to a game last year, but that's okay because this year he's going to come to probably all the games, and he's going to be a great pickup. We just saw Matt Handy go back-to-back with quarterbacks. You know, is he going to experiment? Is he going to make this an open competition and see which one of you guys performs better?
Two young developing quarterbacks here. I think Austin McClendon leadership can really help them. Emmett's a every week quarterback. If Jalen Brown shows up, though, he would probably win this starting position. But since we're talking about quarterbacks, your MVP pick this season, Jalen Brown, can we get that on record?
Oh, absolutely. Jalen Brown is a guy who, I think he was known for never throwing an interception in his entire life. He's a great player. He's a dual sport athlete. Some might say tri-sport athlete. Some might say quad. He plays a lot of sports, and he's successful in all of them. He's a quarterback. He's a great player.
He's a great quarterback, great basketball player for NC Ice. This guy's just an all-around athlete. He's competing for the starting spot at Eastern Guilford varsity. I believe he will win this position. But will he win the starting quarterback spot in 252? We're not sure. That shows you how competitive and talented this league is. He's a great athlete.
This league is competitive. And speaking of NC Ice, this is a good time to remind you that they occasionally have spaghetti dinners. So when you have a text from NC Ice asking you to come out to the spaghetti dinner, we recommend it. It's a great time. There's plenty of spaghetti. I believe it's all you can eat, including salad and drink. Plenty of great things to come out to. You get to see a lot of 252 members. It's just a great time to be had by all, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it is. Speaking of great times, though, flag football really is amazing. I really look forward to this season. What are some improvements you hope to see this season to continue the greatness?
I think of things like, I think the best thing about this league is the attitude of the players. And so when players have a great attitude, this league is the best in the nation. There's not a football league better. Some people talk about the NFL. Some people talk about the XFL. Those leagues cannot compare to our league when the players are at their peak in competitiveness, but in also friendliness and just love of the sport and love of being around guys that you haven't seen in a while, that you're ready to play football with. It can be a great time when everybody's committed.
Maybe you'll piggyback off this, but some of my favorite moments, one example, Ross Myers hitting the head, goose egg, Cody Hodgeff takes him to his house to take care of him.
That was a great time, and here's the pick.
With the second pick of the fourth round, Saxe-Bahal selects a lineman out of Southern Alamance High School and Buckner Steel, Mike Pike.
Mike Pike was just selected here. He's a guy that had never scored a touchdown in his football career. 1 week he gets a goal line pass, scores his first touchdown. The next week he gets subbed in at quarterback and scores 7 touchdowns. He told Commissioner Matt Handy, he said, "This is my last game. I'm retiring. I can never beat this." He hasn't played in a 252 flag football game since, but we're thinking that Mike Pike is coming back. What do you think about this?
I'm not sure if Mike Pike was drafted this low due to his possible retirement or due to his low character. This is the first low character guy off the board we've seen that is in risk of suspension due to player safety. But when Mike Pike has his attitude right, this man is as in the first year, he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and he is that talented.
This is a guy that, some people have questioned his character. I'm a guy that say, he had a few, out of character events. But I think that, Mike Pike is a guy who's grown up, and he has really became a high character guy. I think we shouldn't judge Mike Pike on his past incidents at 252, because Mike Pike is a guy who's turned it around. I would say he's now working at Buckner Steel. I believe that is the 7th largest steel industry in the world, which is a huge deal for Mike Pike. He's going a lot of places, doing a lot of things, and hopefully one of those things is 252 flag football.
This league would not be the same without Mike Pike. I agree. I think he's done some out-of-character things, but this guy is high character. He has a great heart, really having a great career right now. I hope we see more Mike Pike for the league's sake this year.
The league needs Mike Pike. He's a personality that just brings people together. People love being around Mike Pike. There's always a moment, there's always a story to be told when Mike Pike is at a 252 flag football game.
With the third pick of round 4, Swepsonville selects offensive lineman from Eastern Alamance High School, Louis Porco.
His biggest concern is being on the field. We've seen a broken leg in the past. We've seen him take EMT classes on Saturday. Possible suspensions in the future for fighting. He's a top 2 round, probably a top 2 talent. One of the best linemen we've seen, and he loves 252 flag football more than maybe anybody in the league, but his just character and commitment doesn't show it. What are you hoping out of Louis Porco this season?
You know, Louis a guy that when he gets his temper under control on the field, he's one of the best players to have in the league. He's a guy that brings out a lot of guys to the league and shows them what a great time this can be. He's just a guy that has to, keep it together on the field and really, commit to winning and not hurt his team because his team needs him out on the field. And, he's just got to stay out there.
Yeah, we've seen Louis at his prime, playing offensive line, fullback, rushing in for touchdowns. It's not a question of talent. We can't repeat it. And I've seen some high-character moments from Louis Porco. They're just a rare breed. But I hope that in the possible last season ever of 252 football, we see more of it.
That's a thing, the fate of this league really rests on the character of the players. If this is a low-character league, then maybe this league is not worth having.
I would agree.
Well, we look forward to the next pick. There's a lot of great guys still on the board. I mean, I don't know who's going to get picked here. What do you think?
I'm not sure where Isaac Irby's going to go this pick. I would expect some linemen to compete with all the linemen that Matt Handy's picking for his team, unless he's considering Josh Chick as a lineman.
With the last pick of the 4th round, Saxe-Bahal selects punter, receiver, and defensive player, and fireman out of Southern Alamance High School, Blake Epps.
6'10", Blake Epps picked here. A guy that, I believe he won punter of the year. Is that right?
He did win punter of the year. He invented the stat P1s. This guy would punt the ball and pin you inside of the one. Sometimes it was better to just punt the ball with Blake Epps than even run down the field with Josh Chick throwing the ball because you're going to pin them inside. You might see an Alex Fowler slip up safety.
Yeah, that's true. Alex Fowler did slip and have a safety, but I believe he won that game.
He did win 21-2. That was their only score. But back to Blake Epps' punting talent. This guy can punt for distance, accuracy. He's the best punter this league has ever seen. Maybe another punter will go.
With the first pick of the 5th round, Swetsonville selects wide receiver and defensive back out of Southern Alamance High School, Jonathan Day.
Well, another developing receiver here, a guy that has one of the most elite trainers in all of Alamance County, a guy that also doesn't punt.
Yes, Jeremiah Jackson, his family member and trainer, holds Jonathan to a high standard, will make him do push-ups during the game if he's not challenging himself or messes up. And this is why I predict Jonathan to be one of the best players in this year. He may be most improved player this season due to his dedication to football.
He's a guy that loves the sport. He's looking at a future in football, whether that means being a NCAA football player like Austin McClendon or maybe even beyond.
I do believe he has league talent. Who else in this league would you say has a chance to be all 252 league?
All 252 league, well, I think of top players. Obviously everybody in the first round has a chance. Second rounders. Let's go with some sleeper picks. A sleeper pick for me, Trevor Woods, a guy that was underutilized, a guy that needs to be utilized more by his captain, Josh Chick. Trevor Woods, if he's utilized properly, he could be wide receiver of the year. He could be offensive player of the year. There's any number of things he could be.
Some sleepers for me, some guys that have not been drafted. Drew Thomas was an all-county linebacker for Williams High School. He has all-league talent. Maybe we'll see some other guys go like Marcus Harrison. He has all-league talent.
When you mention a guy like Drew Thomas, I think of this pick.
With the second pick of the 5th round, Swetsonville selects wide receiver and defensive back of the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, Keenan McCauley.
So it wasn't Drew Thomas. It was another excellent player. Keenan McCauley. What you need to know about Keenan McCauley, he has an injury. Matt Handy, will you explain?
Yes, Keenan McCauley just reported today. I'd heard from his brother, but confirmed today. He does have a shoulder injury. He's a previous quarterback of the year. We've seen what he can do at quarterback, but this year he will be limited receiver, which where he's also effective. He recently got a job coaching baseball and football at a Guilford High School. What are we going to see from Keenan this year at exclusively receiver?
He was receiver for John Kirby at Eastern Alamance. That tells you that he's got talent at the position. So that's what we really like to see out of our players in this league is talent. Keenan is a high-character guy, a guy that rarely gets angry.
Hey, he has really improved in all 252 sports. He's a diehard fantasy football and baseball guy, a big trader, big on trades, really good at trading. We'll see what we have from him this year. I hope to see him at many games this season. Him and Kaysen, great brothers in this league. We have many brothers in this league, and what I like about brothers is I feel like everyone in this league is brothers, and when this league is at its best.
With the third pick of the 5th round, Swepsonville selects quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, and linebacker out of Woodlawn Middle School, Kaysen McCauley.
So that's our second middle schooler off the board here, I do believe. Kaysen McCauley, a guy that, people might think, at, 3'10", 45 pounds, you might not think that he is a guy that's going to impact this league. But tell me what Kaysen McCauley has done to people.
Kaysen McCauley is an outstanding talent in this league. His low center of gravity makes it almost impossible to pull his flag, but he has grown recently. We may see him be a dark horse for MVP candidate. But Kaysen is an outstanding player. Who's the other middle schooler in this draft that you really project?
Our middle school friend, Jalen Brown, a top player for, I believe, was it Graham Middle School?
It was. But back to Kaysen McCauley. I remember the first touchdown in 252 league history was a pass from Keenan McCauley to Kaysen McCauley in the infamous 9-on-11 game in which the team with 11 players had 2 guys benched. I think we can all do the math here. That's 13-9 balanced. Could be 11-11. But Austin McLennan's team used this to their advantage and scored the first ever touchdown.
With the last pick, the 5th round, Saxe-Bahal selects tight end, lineman, and linebacker out of the University of North Carolina Public School System, Nick McGrainer.
Nick McGrainer selected there, a guy that, he's been in the league a long time. You wouldn't know that from his games played.
Yeah, I think Nick, if he can get on the court, a.k.a. Alexander Wilson Field, he will be a very effective player. He gives you all he wants. Some people have considered him a LeBron stopper, and by LeBron I mean Blake Epps. There's a lot of good things to say about Nick McGrainer. I'd love to see his brother come back for another brother duo.
With the first pick of the 6th round, Saxe-Bahal selects a lineman at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, John Hester.
John Hester selected there, a guy that we haven't seen in a while. He is a league original, came out to the first game that was in 2012. The next season was in 2015, but he came to the first ever game and, he scored. He was a great guy. Tell me what John Hester brings back to the league.
Offensive lineman talent. He's really impacted this league in his first game. Chopped at the quarterback's leg, changed player safety.
With the second pick in the 6th round, Swepsonville selects quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back out of Mars Hill and North Carolina State University, Brian Joins.
Well, we see Brian Joins get selected here, a guy that was, Offensive Player of the Year as well as Runner of the Year and Receiver of the Year. He's a guy that you wouldn't expect to go this low. I heard that he spoke with the commissioner, and he said, look, I don't want to get drafted below 2 middle schoolers this year. I deserve to be drafted higher. I was Offensive Player of the Year. Well, Brian Joins, you just got selected behind 2 middle schoolers.
Hey, Brian Joins, I'm not sure if you said it, but he's won many awards. Offensive Player of the Year, Runner of the Year, Receiver of the Year, and he's still going in the 6th round. I think this is a reflection of availability. He has an internship right now at a lake and may not be available this year, but he will be there tomorrow, which brings value.
That does bring value. However, not more value than middle schoolers.
It's hard to disagree. He's another guy who has a brother that's played in this league, Adam Joins. We've cut back on the middle schoolers in this league this year. Although Kaysen is a middle schooler, he's a rising high schooler. We will only see 9th graders and up in the league this year, unless you guys don't invite your friends, and we have to bring middle schoolers.
You heard it here first. Invite your friends and monetary contribute. Brian Joins is a guy that almost led his team to a championship, but he didn't. He's a guy with character concerns. What do you think about that? Will Brian Joins get suspended this year?
I think it's less of his character and the situations he's been put in. I think the commissioner is taking outstanding precautions to prevent those situations. For Brian Joins and all the league, a lot of guys in the league look at fights and bad situations and say, that would never happen to me, until it happens.
That's right. A lot of guys in this league don't understand that high character is the most important thing in this league. We're looking forward to the next pick. We're in the 6th round here. Thanks for staying tuned with us. We'd like to remind you that Taco Bell has the new Naked Chicken Chalupa, the spicy Naked Chicken Chalupa. Pick it up at your local Taco Bell. So, Matt Handy, who do you think is going to go next?
Oh, man. We're about to find out.
With the 3rd pick in the 6th round, Swepsonville selects wide receiver and safety of Southern Alamance High School, Matt McDaniel.
Matt McDaniel, a guy with character concerns also, but here he is selected in the 6th round. He's a guy with high talent. I believe he was safety of the year. A guy that was all-pro safety, a guy that's had many interceptions in his career. Do you think his interceptions were due to skill or due to luck?
Oh, Matt McDaniel's a very talented player. Pass deflections, interceptions, he gets it all done. But not just Matt McDaniel, but many guys in this league were a product of Josh Chick throwing the ball. Matt Handy himself, one of the worst players in league history, had multiple interceptions in a game. He was catching Josh Chick interceptions like pop flies, waving guys off. Sometimes Josh Chick makes guys look like all-stars. But let me tell you about Josh Chick. When he's passing the ball, shouldn't be in this league sometimes, even though he does make amazing happen. But Josh Chick running with the ball, nearly unstoppable. But that hip swivel, we've never seen anything like it except from Austin Smith one time. On who was that?
That was Josh Chick that he abused on the play. Matt McDaniel, a guy who was a high school football player, a guy with talent, a guy with a lot of experience, a guy that's been there from the beginning in this league. Matt Handy, when I think about Matt McDaniel, how fast does he run his 40-yard dash?
This year he's improved to a 3.9. Another thing I'd like to say about Matt McDaniel, we appreciate the support of his current girlfriends at the time, his mom. They video for this league, kept stats. And they've really made this league possible. We look for any volunteers to keep stats or film.
With the 4th pick in the 6th round, Swepsonville selects offensive and defensive player of Southern Alamance High School, Mason Shaw.
Mason Shaw, a guy gets selected here. Another underutilized player. Tell me what Mason Shaw can bring to the team.
So are you a Taco Bell guy, as you shouted them out earlier, or are you more of a Bojangles guy?
I prefer Taco Bell. Bojangles is great. Don't get me wrong. I love their chicken. The thing is, I just like tacos more than I like chicken. I could go for some Taco Bell after this draft.
Yes, Mason Shaw, as you were asking. He had 1 rushing touchdown last season. What was that we just saw?
I don't know. It looks like a pick was about to be made, and I don't know what's going on here. Do you think Mason Shaw is in trouble?
Someone's in trouble. that does not sound good. Does not sound good at all. But, yes, Mason Shaw, 1 rushing touchdown, as we said, underutilized. I think there's a lot of guys underutilized in this league. Maybe we'll see some standout guys this year. What could possibly going on in this draft?
I think there's a lot of argument about getting Mason Shaw used. This is a guy that, he can score touchdowns. You just have to give him the opportunity. He's a lot like Trevor Woods. Just give this guy the ball and let things happen, If you're Josh Chick, stop throwing it to bad receivers. Start throwing it to good receivers.
Who are some of those bad receivers?
Well, look at guys like current free agent Judah Jansen. A guy that...
There's a trade to announce. Isaac Irby has traded the draft rights of Hunter Farlow to Swepsonville for the draft rights of Keenan McCauley and Kaysen McCauley.
This is a blockbuster deal. Let me just spell it out for you. Hunter Farlow is a top player, can be utilized at any position. Keenan and Kaysen, maybe the top brother duo in the league, definitely better than the Kirkpatricks.
When I heard Keenan was traded, my heart dropped, but then I heard Kaysen follow, and I was relieved. I love to see these guys playing together. But this pick may have to do with Louis Porco. We know he's probably the highest risk guy, suspension. We know we've had some team chemistry problems with Keenan McCauley in the past. I think Matt Handy made the right move to get Keenan off of his team, just due to the fact of him and Louis disagreeing. And he got Hunter Farlow, a guy that Louis been known to like. I really respect the move by Matt Handy trying to please his players like Louis Porco. Hopefully they return the favor to him.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's important for players to stay on the field this year. You can't afford to get suspended anymore because your team is going to be in trouble. With, 6 games, if you miss one, you just costed your team a championship game. They might not even make it at that point. Louis Porco is a guy that, when his temper is under control, he's one of the best players in the league. When it's not, he's going to get suspended.
I think this was a good trade for Isaac Irby as well. Giving up all those picks of that first rounder, he gets a 2-for-1 here, gets some talented guys, gets some skill guys to go along with them. Matt Handy sticks with offensive lineman and picks up Hunter Farlow here. He's really building a wall with his guys and giving Jalen Brown and Emmett Raggett a chance to really succeed at quarterback. Who is Jalen and Emmett going to throw the ball to besides Ross Myers?
Well, look, Ross Myers might be all they need. You talk about underutilized people. Ross Myers is that guy. He's one of the most underutilized. But I look at people like Offensive Player of the Year, Brian Joines. He's on that team. You look at guys like Matt McDaniel, a guy who can do things in space when you get him the ball. With a quarterback that talented, he will find a way to get people involved. Let's see the pick.
With the first pick of the 7th round, Swepsonville selects offensive lineman from Alamance County, Edward Golston.
Edward Golston, a guy that played in the championship game last year. He was a guy that was put in at punter. He was under pressure at punter, so he threw the ball in the air. Ended up being a pick.
Well, we've seen some outstanding plays at punter. Edward Golston, one of them. But tell us about Matt Handy's experience punting.
Matt Handy, There was a fumbled punt, I believe it was by Mike Pike. It hit him in the neck and rolled over. And so Matt Handy picks up the ball and boots it horizontally directly out of bounds with no advance of the ball. In fact, because he received the snap like 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, the other team was set up in the red zone, and they proceeded to lose that game. But that's not as good as the best Matt Handy play, which is it was on 4th down. This was for the game. Matt Handy was under a lot of pressure, and when quarterbacks are under pressure, you know what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to throw the ball out of bounds and live on to the next play. Well, Matt Handy forgot that it was 4th down. There was no next play.
With the 2nd pick of the 7th round of the flag football draft, Sax Ball selects a lineman out of Southern Alamance High School, Vince Naiman.
Vince Naiman is a solid lineman that you want on your team, but I heard he was a little bit soft. He got bullied, by other linemen in the first year, and he took a year off.
I heard different. I heard he took a year off, got better, improved his game, got a girlfriend. We love guys with girlfriends. Hopefully they'll keep stats.
With the 3rd pick in the 7th round, Swepsonville selects running back from Southern Alamance High School, Haston Watson.
Tell me about Hayden Gaston.
Who just got drafted?
He's a guy that I've probably heard of. Tell me about him.
He's an outstanding running back. We have all-league running back, Austin McClendon. Well, this guy started over him at Southern Alamance High School. This guy's a great talent. Isaac's a great deputy commissioner. Here he comes with a pick.
With the last pick of the 7th round of the 252 draft, Sax Ball selects a lineman out of East Carolina and Eastern Alamance High School, Marcus Harrison.
Now, Marcus Harrison is a guy that is rumored to easily bench over 300 pounds. Matt Handy, should other linemen in the league be worried about having to square up Marcus Harrison?
You know more about Marcus than me, but that is an impressive stat. Benching well over 300 pounds. Let us know if you bench well over 300 pounds. But Marcus Harrison, a guy rumored to come to the league last year. He did not come, but he didn't even enter his name in this draft, yet he was drafted. I think that says something about his talent, that if he even comes to one game, he will be impacted.
He's a lineman with the kind of strength that makes him a first-round pick. He might be better than Jalen Faust at lineman. It's tough to say. They both came from the Eastern Alamance system, and here's the next pick.
With the first pick, the 8th round, 252 draft, Sax Ball selects quarterback out of UNC Charlotte, Mike Casimir.
Now, Mike Casimir, many people thought he was one of the most talented players in the league, definitely the most talented quarterback, but he goes late here. Why is that?
availability problems. We'll be spending a lot of the summer in Charlotte. He did win quarterback of the year. When he shows up, his team's got a good chance to win the game. But besides Mike Casimir, as we know, there's going to be other quarterbacks playing this year. We've talked about some quarterbacks. Maybe talk about some guys we've never seen play quarterback that might be successful.
I look at a guy like
It's very difficult to decide because quarterback is associated with ego, and many guys in this league have a large ego and have attempted their run at quarterback. But hopefully those egos are put aside for high character this season. But some guys we have not seen at quarterback, Brandon Diaz and Mason Shaw.
With the second pick of the 8th round, Swepsonville selects wide receiver and cornerback of Eastern Alamance, Brandon Diaz.
Brandon Diaz just got selected. This is a guy that, he can play anywhere. He's got the ability to be at any position on the field. We only saw him in the championship game last year, but that's the most important game. We've seen that he can play under pressure. He had quite a few receptions in that game, one of Josh Chick's favorite weapons. What's going to happen here?
Sorry to go off on a tangent, but what is the commissioner's stance on substance abuse?
Look, this league does not test, so our recommendation is not to use substances. But if you do, just don't tell us.
Fair enough. So back to this league. What are some, besides the Austin Smith-Brandon Wade game that we all know about, what are some of the best games you remember in this league's history?
I remember the game last year, the Jalen Faust game. That was a game that, we had so much talent there that you would have thought it would have been the most high-scoring game in history, but it wasn't. It was really low-scoring.
With the third pick of the 8th round, Sax-Bahal selects a linebacker, Drew Thomas.
Drew Thomas just got selected. Tell me about him.
I said earlier, he's all-league talent. He was all-county linebacker for Williams High School. This guy's talented. He might introduce us to a Williams pipeline that can compete with Eastern Alamance pipeline. I'm excited to see Drew Thomas in this league. Who are some guys that have not been drafted that you'd like to see drafted?
Well, I'd like to first of all say that, if this Williams pipeline can compete with the Eastern pipeline, they certainly didn't do it on the actual football field. But anyway, some guys that are highly talented that haven't been drafted, I look at guys like Cody Holichef is a guy in the league. I look at Lane Sanders, a guy that was rated by Josh Chick as being better than Blake Epps on defense. I don't think you can argue with that. There's a lot of people in this league like Nick Hargrove that we look to see him drafted. I mean, Jeremy Leggett is a guy that you might take a flyer on as a last-round pick, he could show up to one game. If you show up to one game, you're winning that game guaranteed.
Here is Matt Handy.
Will Andrews.
But like I was saying before this pick, some guys of undervalued position in this league is the center position. It can be very difficult. You don't get to practice with your team much. There was a few practices that were extremely effective. I know one practice Swepsonville had that turned their entire season around. They practiced just flag pulling the hip swivel of Josh Chick. And I believe they went undefeated after that. So I recommend practicing with your team. But the center position, very undervalued. I'd love to see Josh Foster make a return.
With the first pick of the 9th round, Sax-Bahal selects Derek Jones.
Derek Jones picked here. I don't think he was too happy with the pick. I think he wanted to pick somebody else and pick Derek Jones. What do you think?
Last minute before the draft, Derek Jones reported he would not be eligible for captainship. So it's just sad that'll bring you to laughs because Derek Jones expected to be a captain. He was a captain last year, led his team to victory, but instead replaced by Austin McClendon. He did win Offensive Lineman of the Year. He's another one of these guys. I think if he will commit to O-line, he will be very good. And if not, maybe even tight end because he is a playmaker. We watched film today of Derek Jones. He's a great quarterback.
With the second pick in the 9th round, Swepsonville selects center from Southern Alamance High School, Patrick Stewart.
You can't argue with the pick of Patrick Stewart. This is great value. He's a guy that can play center. He's a lineman. You know, he gives you a good body on the field. What does Patrick Stewart bring to this league?
Well, we've really seen Patrick Stewart grow in his faith over the past few years. I hope he really brings a witness for Christ to this league. And along with that, often comes high character, which this league loves.
With the third pick in the 9th round, Swepsonville selects receiver and defensive back from Swepsonville, North Carolina, Cody Holochef.
Cody Holochef drafted here. When I think of Cody Holochef, I think of one thing, and that's Ralph Holochef. And this is a guy that came, he stepped out of the car, and I had never seen a human that was so wide. The man was built. The man was wider than a school bus.
Another one of our sponsors today, Alfred Acres Farms. If you want goats, chickens, corn, talk to Alfred Acres and Cody Holochef. But back to his dad. His dad was a beast the game he came. Speedy, strong. I'd love to see Ralph Holochef make a return.
That's right. The guy is an outstanding player. One of the few blocking wide receivers in this league. You can't argue with that talent and that versatility.
With the last pick of the 9th round, Saxonville selects a quarterback and receiver out of Williams High School, Isaac Rice.
Now, this guy that was just drafted here, he's a guy that we've seen come and we've seen play at quarterback, and he's been a talented player. I mean, you can't argue with his production at the quarterback position. He's thrown a touchdown. He's caught a touchdown. What can't he do?
Isaac Rice can do everything. Another guy from Williams that may bring in the pipeline. Isaac Rice, and also a high character guy that I'd love to see play more in this league and bring friends.
There's nothing like high character guys. You can see there's a lot of value placed on these high character guys, and there's a lot of suspensions that might be handed out this year.
With the first pick in the 10th round, Swepsonville selects wide receiver from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Billy McCormick.
Billy McCormick drafted here. A guy that...
There's also a trade to announce. Saxonville Hall trades the rights to Derek Jones to Swepsonville for the rights of Patrick Stewart.
Oh, my goodness.
With the third pick in the 10th round, Swepsonville selects wide receiver, offensive lineman, and defensive back from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, Lane Sanders.
All right, well, let's recap. Billy McCormick out of UNC just got drafted, okay? Then the trade happened. Patrick Stewart for Derek Jones. You could tell that Derek Jones, he wasn't meant to be that pick. And so it got traded for Patrick Stewart. You know, I look at that and I think, you know, that's a great deal. What do you say about that?
Good trades. I love some moments in this league, like guys coming together and help put up tents before the game, helping take out cones. I love when guys come together.
With the last pick in the 252 draft, Swepsonville selects offensive and defensive lineman from North Carolina State University, Prescott Kirkpatrick. Thank you, everyone, for attending the live 252 draft. We look forward to having another great season.
Well, that's the end of the draft here. But tell me, what are your thoughts on this season? You've got about 40 seconds to tell me.
I love the large audience here. Thank you, everyone, for your support. But you've seen the themes that we've had. Player safety, suspensions, character. We want high character guys this year. But, guys, I love this league. Thank you for all your support for this league. Invite friends. Invite girlfriends to keep stats. Donate money. Do the things that this league needs if you want to continue to have this league. This league is in a large risk of ending. Thanks to my man Isaac Irby. He's a great deputy commissioner. This league cannot be done without him. And thanks to everyone. Go 252.